Anyways, let's still dig a little deep into what India is for you. So apart from some of the facts that you already heard about the Indonesian as a market, the key difference is that we are the second largest populated country in the world, and currently it's at the helm of its biggest transformation that India would have ever gone through. So right now, whatever the last 67 years of India's independence, India is in its transformational stage right now. It underwent, let me just go back, sorry. So right now, this is the biggest transformation stage for India. We just underwent our elections and have a very stable government. If you have ever heard our Prime Minister earlier, we've never been so confident of the economic stability that's going to come in India over the next 5 to 6 years. Going further, so if you've really been in the India market, who all have been to India? I mean, I'm talking about India right now, but okay. So if you visited India about 5 to 6 years back, that was what our Mumbai International Airport looked like. And currently it looks like this. So some of the biggest investments in the infrastructure actually are coming in, and that's where these are some stats that talks about what is India. So currently the GDP of India stands at about $2.7 trillion, and the GDP growth that we are experiencing is in the range of about 7.6%. This is quite healthy. So if we are ready to look at over the next 2 or 3 years, I'm hoping these numbers are going to go up at least to about 8 to 9%. Very aggressive, but when this is the kind of growth we're going to be experiencing. It's a destination where some of the top investments have come in. Almost close to a $300 billion investments are being made in India as an economy. The biggest strength for India is its population. We currently, by 2025, it's going to be almost a $1.5 billion. 1.5 billion is going to be the population for India, with the mean age being 29. So you would have heard this again and again that we are one of the youngest nations, in fact the youngest nation in the world, with the mean age being around 29 years. And if you look at the consumption pattern, these are the goods and services consumption. It actually stands at about $4 trillion currently. Some of the stats around why, and we keep hearing this, if you've heard our Prime Minister very recently, he says he has an envision to kind of make India the digital power across the globe. And the reason he says that is because currently we have about 1.2 billion mobile subscribers, almost 500 million internet users right now. This number used to be about 300 million, say about 1.5 to 2 years back. And it's one of the fastest growing startup ecosystem in the world. So if you look at some of this, why do I say that it's a really giant powerhouse that India currently exhibits and boasts of? So some examples, few of the MNCs that they have their large operations that are kind of ramping up in India is Samsung has its R&D institute in Bangalore. This is the second largest R&D center out of South Korea, which is situated in India. Then if you look at companies like Intel, they have their largest R&D center out of US, which is again in Bangalore. And you talk about any other company, whether it's Apple, Google, Amazon, their biggest R&D centers are currently based out of Bangalore, which is the second largest after the US. So the reason I'm giving you these macroeconomic views, we've all heard about the digital trends, the consumer trends, but what differentiates India is it's really the massive economic growth that we are experiencing we've been experiencing in the last 2 years, and even in the next 5 years, what's in to come in. If you look at the startup ecosystem, we saw about $800 million being invested. Well, that number was about 2 years back. If you've heard about the recent funding of OYO that is coming, OYO got a funding of about $1 billion almost this year. So that number actually jumps to about $1 billion. The largest ecosystems and the largest startups are not only emerging out of the tier 1 cities, but are also out of the tier 2 and tier 3 cities. So if you look at the skew, almost 30% is coming from tier 1, but the rest of the 70% is actually coming in from tier 2 and tier 3 cities in India. That takes up to the unicorn status. We have almost about 20 unicorns that came out of India in the last 2 years, and this is across sectors. So if you look at it, there is retail in it, there is financial services in it, there is a ride-hailing side, there's an accommodation, aggregators, etc. And currently, if you look at the valuation of these, this is almost close to about, this number is old, so if I have to look at the current evaluation, this would be somewhere around 85 to 70, $90 billion currently. India again is undergoing a massive e-commerce, I would say it's the boom there. It's currently a $200 million economy. This is going to jump into almost about $400 million e-commerce as a sector over the next 2 years. And the whole boom that is coming in the e-commerce sector is across retail to banking to entertainment to travel, consumers, etc. And these are the various brands that currently exist in India as a market. So we call it a perfect storm. So I come from a company which is into product, and one of the things that we keep boasting about is how we're going to revolutionize distribution, what's happening in the digital space. And why do we say that? I mean, it's not something that the travel industry or the hotel industry did not exist. It has been existing for a very long time. Like globally, there are some changes, there's some phenomena that are happening even in the Indian market today. The platforms or the intermediaries are getting merged. There is an emergence of super apps. Everyone becoming and trying to do, because of the consumer database, everyone is trying to get into the same space and get their market share. So if you look at some examples, I'm not going to cover Google because we already have seen some of the trends that existed on the Google side. But if you look at companies like Oyo, they started as an aggregator. Today, they also own assets. And going further, I heard about the latest loyalty program that they launched. So they're going massively into the loyalty space as well. So they're becoming everything. It's like an emergence of a super app which is coming in. You look at another big startup out of India called RateGain, which is actually into digital wallets, digital payments. They started as a purely online payment solution. So if you look at them today, they are again entering, they've already entered into the flight segments, they're contracting with hotels direct, they're massive, they're almost going to have $500 million, $500 million people on their side by about next 2 years. So that becomes, these are one of the important channels that you should be looking at how the entire ecosystem is going to kind of get evolved and merged in India. The rest we all know, whether it's AirAsia, it's hospitality companies like Marriott, what they're doing, you look at companies like Accor, from being a pure hospitality brand, they're emerging to an augmented hospitality which offers airlines, to loyalty programs, to connectivities, to hotels, etc. So it's a perfect storm that is happening, and that's laying the layer for a lot of innovations and a lot of disruption that's going to happen in the travel industry, especially from the point of view of the Indian economy. These are some growth stories and Indian tourism numbers. If you look at it today, the GDP contribution from travel and tourism sits at about 9.4%. That makes India as 7th ranked for any kind of an economy where travel and tourism contributes these kind of numbers. You look at the growth that we're experiencing amongst all the G20 companies or G20 countries that exist. We are ranked number 1 globally. You look at the employment generation that it does. I remember a figure that someone had said, and in fact this was from the Ministry of Tourism, that every room that we open in India or out of India actually leads to 37 employment opportunities for every room that we open up. So, and these, plus these are the other numbers around it. You can go through the rankings that we have. So where does Indian travel, where's the opportunity size for the Indian travel? Currently, if you look at it, the whole Indian travel as such is valued at around $50 billion, with almost 50% bookings that are happening online. There's an explosion of funding with the ease in regulations or FDI by the government. We've almost seen close to $800 billion being poured in by different companies into India. One classic example is, I spoke about Paytm earlier, almost 0.5% share in that is owned by the Alibaba from China, and there are many more such examples there. You're talking about the online segments. The online segments will go, the online economy will go to about $4 billion with a CAGR of 25%. Another big number to note is about the 50 million outbound travelers are anticipated to be generating out of India by 2020. And it's a mobile first, like Indonesia, it's a mobile first economy where currently it's about 25% share that comes in from the online, but almost 41% is going to come in from the mobile and from the online over the next 2 years. So which are some of the top outbound international markets? If you look at SEA or Southeast Asia, Singapore is the #1 outbound market for Indians. Any reason why Singapore is? I really want to hear this because we did a detailed study on why is it that Indians travel so much to Singapore. Any one answer that, what is the major reason? Anybody? Tourism, yes, that's a very broad term, but why do they specifically travel to Singapore?
Connectivities.
Okay, it's actually connected. It's a subset, it's a derivative from there. One of the biggest reasons we found out amongst the study that we did when I was with the hospitality company was it's a big transit place for cruise businesses, for cruise travel. So a lot of Indians, apart from education, business, they also travel to Singapore for cruises because it's the transit hub for them when they want to take that. So that's the reason why Singapore lands at #1. If you look at larger global countries, Singapore, Australia, US, Thailand, UAE. Now, UAE lost a significant share over the last 2 years, and it's basically gone to Australia and US. A lot of reasons is business and it's also education why Indians travel to these destinations, and UAE is kind of, we all know the economy is kind of suffering right now and it's challenged with a lot of things. So the international tourism expenditure, where is the Indian, currently the international expenditures are about $19 billion. If I compare this to China, the CAGR in the 5 years which China showed its maximum growth momentum was at about 17% for when China was in its growth stage. Currently for India, over the last 5 years, this growth momentum has been almost about 23% CAGR. So this $9 billion, when we're talking about a population of 1.7 billion, looks a little less, but looking at the trend, the way China increased almost 100% in 2010, the indicators are right that from here, there's going to be an exponential growth when it comes to the outbound tourism, especially in terms of the expenditure. If you look at an average spend today, an average Indian would spend about $800 odd for a short haul and almost about $1,600 for a long haul destination. Comparing it to the other countries, it's lesser, but there are a lot of reasons for it. That's also because a lot of our travelers are millennials. Millennials do travel often, but then they spend a little less. That's why these numbers are a little skewed towards the lower side. So let's dig now into, now that we've seen the macroeconomic view, we've known which markets do Indians travel to, and let's dig a little more into the consumer trends. How does a typical Indian consumer look like? Not everybody has a kid, but a typical Indian consumer or a traveler today who's going outbound is between 25 to 40 years, which qualifies them to be a millennial. 94% of them are graduates. There are 50%, 60% are full-time employed. Some are married, some are not married, so it's not at 60%. Everybody is married. We have a category called DINGs, which is double income, no kid. They are one of our biggest category of outbound travelers who travel out of India, apart from traveling solo. And the minimum household income is about 8 lakhs. This is again keeping the skew because we have a huge skew between rural and urban India. So you look at the average income, it's about 8 lakhs for these people. But the people who are really traveling are the young millennials currently. They are the ones who dominate. Like I said, 50% of our population is actually at a mean age of about 29 years. They are the risk takers. They are the ones who would spend a lot of money, and they are the ones who travel solo. So this is where some of the numbers are. They not add up to 100 because this was a survey that we did with a research firm, which said that a person, how often does he travel? What is his traveling pattern? Does he travel solo, with the family, etc.? So we saw that, and there can be people who travel solo and with the family over the last 12 months as well. A lot of Indians love traveling solo. And this is coming and originating out of the fact that we have a huge millennial population, which are the main Indian travelers traveling out of the countries that we spoke about. And second factor is also that Indians are taking India because of the nuclear family impetus that exists as such in the Indian culture. So another big point has been hotel versus non-hotels. Whether hotels will stay in the business, do you want to be staying in hotels, or do you want to be staying in the alternate accommodation? So if you look at this skew, overall it's almost like a 50-60%, it's almost like a 60-40%. 60% people will stay, no, we'll still prefer hotels, good for us. I'm not sure if we have somebody from the alternate accommodation here, but anyways, we're still going to be in the business, but then 40% still prefers actually, and we're seeing this trend increasing about the alternate segments. But the skew changes. What is something for us to actually be aware that where is the skew happening? If you're talking about the millennials traveling out of India, and almost 60% of them, if you see the younger, the people, they are very agnostic and they are actually going to be staying in, they're very open to staying in the non-travel hotel accommodation, which is actually the alternate. That's where the growth of people like OYO, Airbnb, etc. is kind of sprucing up, and one of the most preferred segments when it comes to Indian travelers. Top online information. So we all speak about brand versus OTA versus where do we need to be spending our marketing bucks, but the reality is the Indian consumer today will go about searching. He does almost 80% researches on online on the aggregators as well as on the meta searches and Google. And the consumption pattern is also similar. That means you will still have the Indian consumers transacting more on the OTAs, meta searches, the Google sites, and then the last preference is actually going to be your own brand consumer websites. That's the reality, and that's where even the trust factor for an Indian lies today. So Indian travel is highly inspirational. So when I say inspirational, so apart from only booking a room, an Indian traveler, and that's the biggest opportunity area for us when we spoke about that, if an average consumer today only spends about $1,000, $1,100 or $1,600 outside on a long haul or a short haul trip, where is the opportunity to kind of tap in the Indian consumer? That's really where his aspirational psychographics come in. So when you're talking about aspirational, they will always book a trip where they're booking a shopping experience. They will book a trip where they're able to book in additional add-ons like your wellness experience, like your spas, massages, etc. And that's how their average consumer pattern is, that they will look to spend more on the add-ons and ancillary services in addition to your rooms. And that is where we say that today Indian travel is highly aspirational and inspirational when it comes to the booking psychographics. You talk about the mobile usage. We saw the number earlier that if you kind of break it down and say almost 80% of the internet that is being accessed in India is being done on the mobile platforms. But if you look at where travelers are actually transacting, no matter how much I would like to say that it is a mobile first economy, it will grow, that's where your consumers are, but currently most of the online travel that is getting booked is actually getting booked on via desktops, and 1 in 2 travelers only for the hotel space actually goes on about booking on the mobile. So that's a little counterintuitive when we talk about one of the largest mobile economies, but the bookings are not happening. There are a lot of factors to it. I think as and when the Indian economy as such will evolve, we would see the skew getting changed. Online payments, despite of Paytm being the biggest digital wallet and increasing, almost having a 45% share, we still find that Indians use other modes of payment when making a transaction. Whether it's your credit cards, they prefer to use credit cards, they prefer to use debit cards. The digital wallets is only gaining momentum right now. So if you look at proximity mobile payment users in India, that means proximity mobile payment as a definition means that people who have made any kind of an action while they were doing their last purchase or a last action at the point of sale when they did a purchase, is almost, you see a sudden growth there in 75%. That is when we had a big demonetization drive about 2 years back. That is the time when we saw a huge consumption in the digital wallets. But over a period of time, this is going to kind of skew. There was a recent survey that we did for one of the largest online partners that why is it that people or the Indians do not transact or do not make payments online? While there is a surge, there is a lot of things that the RateGain needs to work on, especially when it comes to security, especially when it comes to cyber attacks, especially when it comes to the trust that the consumer has. Overall, when we're seeing this skew that more and more rural population, more and more urbans are starting using internet as such, we will see this trend skewing towards where people will start making a lot of digital payments online. Where is it? So when we talk about the content, if 50% of the travelers traveling out of India are the millennials, they are the one who are very online savvy. They would go and really check out the content that is available, and they believe in user-generated content. So one of the biggest economies where there's a lot of focus by the brands on actually investing in user-generated content is actually India right now. People believe, more than believing the brands, they actually believe what their peers talk about. We love our Bollywood films. So if you really like about it, in fact, every time a movie is released where you are able to feature an international destination, you would automatically start seeing, over the next 2 months, you will start seeing this surge. That happened when we had a release of this movie called Zindagi Na Milegi Dobara, actually promoted Spain. And in the next 2 months of its release, we saw, and if you talk to any of the aggregators, there's almost a 40 to 50% increase or a surge in the demand. That is the impact that Bollywood has on its Indian consumers. And if you're really looking to market in an Indian economy, have some bucks, go and do a partnership with one of the Bollywood films. That's the best way to kind of get your traffic up. So what are going to be the next big digital trends in India? When we talk about it, it's a 1.7 billion people economy. The vernacular content is going to play a big role. While there are a lot of debates in terms of if my travelers are staying in 5-star, 4-star, they are all English-speaking community, do we really need to generate a vernacular content? But if you look at the numbers that I gave you earlier, the growth is really coming in from your tier 2 and tier 3 cities. As they will start to travel more, it's important that you start engaging with them because your travel is not only happening from tier 1 or a tier 2 city out of India, it's also happening from cities like Jaipur, Lucknow, Ahmedabad. These are the cities where if you're able to generate content in their local languages, you'll have a higher level of engagement when you talk about the whole engagement pattern with the Indian consumers. The growth of voice, like any other economy, I don't think this is very specific to India as such. You have, if you look at your friend's house, you have the Siris, you have the Alexas, you have the Google Assistant. One of our biggest mobile networks, which is Jio, actually had a pre-installed Google Assistant in its app. So the growth of voice will be there. We've already started experiencing it in 2018. Even in 2019, if you want to be relevant, if you want to work in Indian as an economy, as Indians in the market, you need to think about how voice is going to be changing the user and search patterns over the coming years. Videos and interactive content. I think everyone talks about it, how interactive the videos needs to be. This has been there as a trend in 2018. The only thing that would change is now we are experimenting with more different formats of videos. There are micro videos, there are engagement videos. Basically when we speak about engagement, that means Are you able to trigger any kind of an action while you're viewing a video? So this is going to be one of the biggest trends that we're going to see in India. Companies like Amazon, companies like Oyo, they're doing it very well. But this is for the other brands. If you really want to tap the Indian consumer, this is one thing that you'll have to keep a close eye on in 2019. Smarter interactive chatbots, like the voice, the chatbots are going to be there. We have already started seeing brands like Accor launching their chatbot system. We saw this emergence in the last 2 years, but this is only going to evolve further. Even at a current, I'll give you an example. We are in the B2B space. We operate into different products. We actually launched a chatbot to service our customers. Ever since we launched that chatbot, we have seen our operational efficiencies going up by almost 25%, and there are much faster consumer experiences that we've been able to drive. So this is, as a trend, as a digital economy, this is something that we will continue to see a growth in India. And the last is artificial intelligence. This is no buzzword. Everything that you talk about today, whether it's your revenue management systems, it's a consumer behavior, you're talking about your marketing solutions, there is an element of artificial intelligence that's going to come in, because no matter how much insights you can get into the data, your past consumer trends, what is it that your data is talking to you? How much recommendations can you look into the future? How can you predict the consumer future? Is something which is going to change how the digital media buys are done in the Indian economy, or rather in any market for that. So these are the top digital trends that we should be looking at, and if you want to work and if you want to target Indian consumers, you need to be sure that you're doing at least 2 or 3 of these 5 things that are listed. That's it from mine. Thank you.